Alright, hello and welcome to Ben's OP Game Show, recorded live, very obviously, here every Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific Time, twitch.tv/TheGameFanatics. I have moved into my new place. I didn't have a show last week. I streamed Cuphead for far too long instead, which was a surprise weird thing. Got the green screen back. It's a work in progress, you know, but you'd think you set up a green screen and it just works, but there's a lot of, and I think I actually made this whole speech before when I first got the green screen. Doesn't matter. On this week's show, I'm going to be talking about Cuphead and Nioh's final bit of DLC, Bloodshed's End, as I played both of them. But first, let's dive into a topic for this week, and it's one that has kind of been going on somewhat recently, and it's bothering a lot of people. The green screen looks great. So, NBA 2K18, Forza 7, Shadow of War, and WWE 2K18, what do all of these recent games have in common? Well, it's a major single-player component and microtransactions. Now, the types of purchases you can make in these games varies, but the idea that you can or must pay to win or pay to make solid progress has pissed off quite a few gamers, and it got me thinking, have I ever paid for something in-game other than for DLC expansions? The answer is no, and it is simply because I'm cheap and these microtransactions have never seemed like a great deal. However, I have used the currency that could have been purchased in two somewhat recent games, Let It Die, which is free to play, and Guitar Hero Live, which is not free to play, but I received a free $10 voucher by mistake, and the video for that can be found deep in my YouTube from years ago. I was very close to giving Let It Die money, but I didn't. You earned enough through playing, but even then it was so finite I felt it was inevitable, and I stopped playing entirely instead of paying. And I love Guitar Hero Live, but I never would have purchased the currency. It gives you a fair amount for free, and it only affected the online portion. And that's the difference. The microtransactions in the games I listed at the start are heavily integrated into the single player, and that's rubbing players the wrong way. But why is Breath of the Wild behind me? We're going to use it as a thought experiment in just a second. So people are up in arms about these microtransactions, but what's wrong with them? Is it the microtransactions themselves, or how they are implemented? I'll be the first to tell you that I don't care about any of these games for reasons that have nothing to do with the microtransactions, so I won't go into specifically what they're doing wrong. However, there's a strong trend, and things are likely to continue and possibly get worse. To consider this in a broader fashion, I'm going to outline some hypothetical microtransactions for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now, this will assume some knowledge of Breath of the Wild, but considering it's one of the biggest games of the year, I think that's fine. Let's start with one that wouldn't be entirely intrusive, and then the very small tweaks that would make it lean towards egregious. There are over 900 Korok seeds in Breath of the Wild, and the game doesn't mark them on the gigantic map. But what if it did? A simple microtransaction could be to reveal the location of 1, 10, or 100 Korok seeds on this map. You'd have to go and find them though. So what if it's $3? I'll get to find 50 Korok seeds, right? A key thing to note here, this functionality doesn't exist in the game. There's no way to have undiscovered Korok seeds be marked on the map. Even if there was, this would exist as an optional thing for completionists. However, it could easily not be that. Imagine playing Breath of the Wild and getting to one of the 4 divine beasts and the game telling you, hey Link, you need to have 300 Korok seeds to access this area. This gate would abruptly halt progress and would exist for several reasons, but in this instance it becomes predatory, especially if there is then a prompt asking for money to reveal these Korok seed locations. You need X number of stars to access new parts of the castle at Mario 64, but it's not quite like this. Most people aren't going to find 300 Korok seeds without playing for 50 plus hours. And what if you needed 800 to get into Hyrule Castle? This slope is hella slippery, and it's just the tip of the iceberg. Amiibo already exist in the game as kind of loot boxes that can be redeemed once per day. What if you could buy them in game as well? Not to mention how some people already aren't fans of this Amiibo functionality for the very loot box nature that they are. What if Guardian Beasts had a shrine completion requirement? What if you could purchase weapon slots? What if those weapon slots weren't permanent? What if you could pay for a rupee multiplier? How many slots does your stable have for horses? And these are off the top of my head, but you get the point. And as soon as you let these ideas into the game, even if they are obtainable through normal means, things change. You no longer live in a world where every player needs 13 hearts to get the Master Sword, and that means at least 40 shrines have been completed through a lot of discovery in the open world. You then live in a world where player X did it the traditional way, and player Y bought the locations of these shrines, could teleport directly to them, and get the sword right away. And as soon as a player can do that, design decisions around enemy difficulty change, as well as many other aspects. The butterfly effect is huge from that one simple alteration. In making up all of these possibilities, it should become apparent how free Breath of the Wild is, how contrary to its very nature as a single-player RPG these choices would be. Devs can say they playtested the game with microtransactions off, but the very notion that they are available to the player changes the psychology of those players. If you were stuck on a boss in Bloodborne, but knew you could pay $1 to skip it, would you? It certainly would cross your mind, and I bet people would give in much more quickly than if the option didn't exist. And that completely changes the game from how the designer implements features to how the player interacts with it on almost every level. And I think cosmetic things are fine, but some pretty outfits, that's great. Grinding for them isn't the end of the world. However, as soon as game progress, as player stats, as completion is tied, however loosely, to microtransactions, everything changes. And the loud reaction gamers have been having to these decisions of late should be a strong signal to developers and publishers, especially when it's for features that used to be free or used to be an in-game currency that was doled out at a reasonable rate before. This change hasn't been sudden, but it's definitely coming to a head now, and we need to come to terms with two things. One, if you don't want it, don't buy it. Send a strong message that these choices suck. Don't buy the game entirely if that's how you want to do it. And two, these microtransactions will continue. We must be aware of this. Just one whale replaces many people who would refuse to buy the game. This practice will remain, but we have to be vocal as to how it should change. Microtransactions and single-player games can coexist, but we have to push back until it is something reasonable and doesn't affect how people play the game in the first place. Until it isn't something that feels like a modern GameShark code. Until it isn't experience boosts that feel mandatory to pass arbitrary progress-halting gates. Then and only then will the world be at peace. But I think we still have a long way to go, and this is really only the beginning. And I have no idea what the fuck's going on outside. I don't know if I probably can't hear it, but there's some yakadoos wibbling and wobbling around. No, let's be silent all day, but as soon as Ben does his dumb show that no one watches, let's make noise. That's what it is. So that's my opinion on that. But we're going to move on to the actual topics of the week in just a second. And I'm going to go outside and maybe kill one of those people in the meantime. Why are you being so loud? What's happening? Man, I am on the second story. You are too loud. Please go away. The potato. Oh no! Oh god. Hey! There we go. All these stupid fucking glitches here. Hey, well. Sorry, I had to bitch and moan about people outside for 20 minutes. It's a very important part of the show. Okay. Haha, great joke. I don't know what that's referring to. But let's talk about fucking Cuphead. This is me in my first 15 minutes or so of Cuphead, and while I do have some complaints about it, good lord, do I love this game. I probably ended up streaming most of it, which is crazy, because I streamed the first night on the TGF channel, and on my own channel I streamed for 2 nights, and oh my god, I love this game. It goes so beyond, like, this is one of those things where I was like, oh, it looks cool, whatever, and then the whole controversy came out, and it actually made me interested in the game, and it is now one of my top 5 games of the year, and that's like by fucking far. this is quite the damn achievement, especially to someone like me who is not a Contra or a Metal Slug type of player. But I love those 2D platformers, and this is one of the platforming levels. This is the infamous one that a certain Dean got stuck on. But I can understand. It did take me 10 or so minutes to beat this level. I can understand. There are so many things you learn in the process of the game, and so many of these levels are so short, where it's 2 minutes, right? But you'll play it for 45 minutes to get to the end, to understand this is the point where that guy does this, and if I shoot that there, okay, then I can get through there, and then if I dodge here and get that collectible, then I dodge over here and shoot that guy, shoot this guy, switch weapons, do the ultimate move here. It's this weird chess match in it, because you only have 3 HP. On the third hit you die like that. Oh, I'm cut off with the thing, a hand. You die there. So it's tough, and it is very tough. There are easy modes for the bosses. I never tried them, not because I'm bragging, but I just, normal was appropriate enough. But there is an easy mode. I don't know how much easier it is, but you get there, and each of these bosses has stages, and the bulk of the game are these bosses, and we'll get to one in a second, and they are beautiful. Everything in this game is so damn beautiful, from just the look itself, but the animation, the way some of these bosses come out and they're like, and do their weird twitchy fingers. The final boss is the devil, and he does this thing at the very beginning where he like leans in towards you, and his eyes real big, and in his eye is like the silhouette of a cup, and an axe comes and just chops the cup in half and like into a bunch of pieces, and then he bends away, and it's beautiful, and it's so damn creative. The entire game is filled with these creative moments. So I'll give an example while talking about the boss fights and how great they are. This is one of the later boss fights, but we're just going to use it as an example. Each boss is broken up into several different forms and stages that have various strategies. You know, you'll get to the next phase, and it's like, oh, well, now it transformed, and I don't know what to do. So this is the train boss towards the end. So you're on this train cart, right? And you can hit the train cart to move to the middle of the screen, to the right of the screen, and back and forth. And you're in control of it more or less. The boss will also affect it if you don't. I'm changing the controls because the controls suck. The boss will do it to mess with you, but you're on a train chasing after the train. You're at the caboose. Out of the back of the train is this ghost with no eyes, and he's taking his hands and like, I think putting them into his chest or in his head somewhere, and he's throwing eyeballs at you. And that's what he's doing. And you just have to keep shooting him, and you're on this little platform, and there's these little pumpkins flying overhead that are dropping skulls, trying to move the platform to screw you up. That's all going on. That's the first form, okay? Then the second form, the train moves forward again. Now a giant skeleton busts out of the train in one of the train cars. And there's 2 train cars also, and his arms come out. And his arms are attacking. And now you gotta shoot his head, avoid his arms, and avoid the pumpkins that are still dropping things to mess with you. Then the next form, the third form, because we're not done yet, is these weird creatures come out of the train car again. And in the middle is the smokestacks, and they're shooting out ghosts that home at you. And if you kill the ghosts, they drop something that'll hit the cart and move the cart and screw you up. So you gotta watch out that. You also gotta kill the ghosts and make sure they don't die in the wrong spot to move you out of the way, because you're still fighting these 2 tentacle demons coming out of a train. Then the train moves to the front, the fourth and final form. It moves to the front. I think that the caboose or whatever, no, the caboose is the back of the train. The engine pops off the train, is running, I think it was, next to you, in front of you, and you gotta hit its tail, the tail of the train, to open up its like heart, its thing over its heart to shoot it, where the coal goes in. It's absolutely insane. And I can only, describing that sounds like I've lost my damn mind, but every single boss is that damn creative. There's the cake queen lady who's like, oh, here's a giant candy corn to fight. Here's a gobstopper. Here's a waffle. And each has their own strategy and their own attacks and their own ways to be better and to learn their moves. And the whole game is designed around learning and just pattern recognition. There's a couple bosses in the second world that are incredible for that the one in the roller coaster area. There's even, haven't even brought it up yet, there's ones where you're doing your little ship and you're shooting because you're a little ship Cuphead. And that's awesome as well. And those are very difficult. And they have their own phases. There's one against a giant robot and he's got an antenna and he's got these weird chest things shooting missiles at you. And you gotta control all of these things. Then his head pops off of the robot and you're fighting the head and it's flying all around. There's bombs everywhere. And then the end is the weird Dr. Lightman who created the robot comes out and he's shooting this bullet hell nonsense at you. And it's incredible. It's so damn creative and so damn fun to learn each part. Even when I'm stuck on a boss for 45 minutes, which did happen sometimes. Even when I fought the final boss for 2.5 hours, which is on my Twitch, which is, good lord, too much. That is too much to be fighting the final boss. But it was so much fun. The little gripes I have with it are that there's kind of a problem with the RNG nature of some of these fights. So one of them, the game's primarily all these fights anyway. One of them is on this roller coaster, and you can see the roller coaster coming in the background. You know, it's like choo choo choo. That's the sound roller coasters make. And you can see it coming, and you're like, okay, there it goes. And here it is on the stage, and you have to jump over the front of it, jump over the passengers so you don't get hurt, right? And you can get completely screwed over by some of these attacks it's doing, where the boss will come on the side of the screen, he'll drop down, he'll drop like 6 musical notes in the way, and if you're trying to jump over an oncoming train or a roller coaster, you get just fucked over. You can't avoid it. So there are certain instances like that where the variable elements overlap on each other, and like I don't know how to avoid that. There's no way to control that necessarily. It just takes a little bit of luck. But by and large, most of the fights don't do that, and it has a really nice ramping. You'll see me struggle against this fight, which is so simple. It's just a forest against a blob, and it becomes later on where you're fighting a giant dragon and there's clouds and the clouds are scrolling. So you have to keep hopping on the clouds as you fight the dragon, or you'll be hopping up a beehive as this crazy bee lady is doing all these things. And they're all so cool and memorable. Like you could show me a picture of any of them and I'd be like, I remember that form. I remember exactly that move. It was as annoying as it can be when you're surprised by something and it's like, fuck, I didn't know that was going to come out. Then you learn what it's doing. You learn exactly the thing you need to do. It does this, I dodge left. I know what to do. You put all that knowledge layered and layered and layered, because it's not easy to avoid all these attacks. You know, you'll be going through and sometimes you'll get halfway through a fight, your first attempt, and you're like, wow, I did really good. And then you'll get stuck on the first form or get stuck on the second form forever. And then by the time you get to the end and you're just dodging every move, you can do the half of the fight without blinking. It's just whatever. And then you're chipping away at it. It's like whittling or something. I don't know. Is it like whittling? Maybe it's like whittling if at the very end of the whittle, you could accidentally screw it up and have to start over. But eventually, you're really good at making a spoon, whatever it is you whittle. I don't know. What do you whittle? You're making a spoon out of wood because it's like 1420 or something. And you get to the end and you screw up the spoon. But now you know how to make the spoon so well. And it's such a surprise to me how much I loved it. Even the platforming sections, even the ones where I started them and was like, this level is impossible. I never want to do this again. I hate it. I don't get it. You go back, you try again, you keep learning it, and then you realize like, oh, I just dodged this way, and then I can exploit this weakness. Like, it's such that reward that I haven't felt really, not to invoke Dark Souls, but really since the early days of Demon Souls and Dark Souls 1, whereas like, I don't know what any of this is, what any of this means. Yeah, you're whittling Spoonhead. He's the sequel character. He's Cuphead and Mugman's daughter, Spoonhead. None of it makes sense. But these days of Demon Souls where you're learning things and you're learning how to exploit them and be like, okay, this guy's weak to fire, I'm going to use fire. I didn't know that to start. I'm going to try this thing. And you're going to learn the weaknesses. And you're going to learn it through trial and error. And so many of these fights, being that there are 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 different stages that are varied in terms of like strategy, but also in terms of what they look like in such amazing, interesting ways. Each one of them could be their own fight. Like in a lesser game, stage 1 would just be the fight, right? And then stage 2 would be a separate boss, and stage 3 would be a separate boss, but it combines it all together, and it demands you to be not crazy good, just good enough that when you get to the end, you've struggled and you've overcome it. It has that feeling that the Souls games have. So goddamn good. I love Cuphead. It does have problems, like I said, mainly the controls. The default controls are trash. They're so utterly bad. I cannot believe they just like, oh, we'll ship the game with the worst control scheme where you have to use all the face buttons and there's just like 6 triggers we're not using. Okay. Well, didn't think that one through, did you? But you could fix that. And then the RNG, besides that, everything else is awesome. These side-scrolling segments, which I think I keep trying to touch on and then I get distracted, are awesome. Some of them end with like little mini boss fights. There's ones where you're running away from a giant ogre who's a pain in the ass. There's not that many of them. There's 6, I think. Yeah, there's 6 in the entire game. And they're pretty well perfect. They're loosely tied to what you're doing, very loosely. This is in a grass field, so this is the grass level, you know, it's not like 1-to-1. You're not going to do the water level and then have a water boss. It doesn't need that, though. It doesn't need that. It didn't even need any of that. It could have been half. The game is incredible, but it is super, super damn difficult. And I think that does need to be stressed. It is one of those games where if you don't want to try a boss fight for 15-20 minutes and die over and over again, then this isn't for you. There's some fights, even towards the end, that took me 10-15 minutes to beat, which was easy. Those were easy fights. And then there was the one like the final boss. So it was 2.5 hours. That was the longest one. Others that were long were the annoying amusement car one that was like 50 minutes to get through because it's RNG garbage. But you have the tools. It gives you these tonics and things you can equip. Like, oh, you get 2 more hearts, but you do less damage. Or you get 1 heart, you do less damage. Or here's different guns to use. So it's like a spread shot. There's a homing missile, which is invaluable, especially during some of these bosses where you're just trying to platform and survive. You can equip the homing shot and then just kind of wait it out. There's 6 different weapons. I believe there's 6 different badges, which are, I picked the one that parries. Oh, I didn't even talk about parries. So there's something that you maybe won't notice if you've just been casually looking at this game. There's pink stuff, haha, that will show up in the bosses mixed in with like, oh, I'm going to fire 6 bolts of lightning at you. Well, why are they all blue but one of them's pink? Well, the pink one can be parried, and the parry goes to your magic meter, essentially. You have 5 cards. Once you get to 5 cards, you can do a super move, or you can just use 1 card for 1 super move. So there's strategy there, because you can't develop more than 5 cards. You get this super also by shooting things. So that's there. Each different gun, or whatever you want to call it, has a different move. There's 3 different supers. 2 of them are kind of trash. So I really picked the one. But the guns themselves, using all that, awesome. Just incredible, incredible work. So much strategy that you can do with all of it. A solid, fun game. And a really fun game that doesn't have double jump. I don't know why I just thought to put that out there. No double jump. Ton of fun. Can't recommend Cuphead higher. Really can't. Really, really can't. I don't know if I'll beat this in my thing. He punches. Look at me. I'm not good at this. I'm not good at this game. Look at that. Just terrible. No, just terrible. But I did beat him. I did beat all the bosses. I did beat all the levels. And I did love it. Love it. That's the final form. Look how different the final form is in terms of strategy and visual appearance. Why did I stand still? I'm not good at games. So if I can do it, you can do it too. I think I die here. Wait for it. Wait for me to die. Yeah. Idiot. Okay, 1 second. And while we move... Well, I should play music. Oh, I can play music. Oh no, that'll screw up the... Never mind. I'm just a moron. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to me. My keyboard sounds lumpy. I don't like that. We move on to another difficult game, which is, it's hard to have two difficult games at the same time, but this is Nioh's final bit of DLC, Bloodshed's End. And it's more Nioh, and that's good, that's bad. It's good because Nioh's great. I love Nioh, definitely one of my favorite games of the year. I think this one starts to show the problems I have with it. In particular, where I feel so underpowered for a lot of these things, and I've always been like 80 levels under the recommended level, which is really, I think, just a loot level you can get. But I was talking about being stuck on bosses. Not only was I stuck on a Cuphead boss for 2.5 hours this week, I was stuck on a Nioh boss for 2 hours this week. And not to include the other fights in the game where I was stuck on that for half an hour here, half an hour there. It's a great piece of DLC. There's 3 full levels with new bosses and repeat bosses from before that kind of pop up at the very end. I didn't beat it because I'm kind of done. I'm kind of done with Nioh. At this point, I've played like 82 hours of Nioh. I don't know if I really need more Nioh. It's coming to the point where I feel like all Dark Souls DLC came to, where it's now annoying. The Dark Souls DLC, while being good, is just, I don't want to grind. It comes out of nowhere. There's no logical flow. If you were playing a game, it would have a flow, this area, then this area, then this area, then this area, right? It just, blop, here's a thing. I feel like I should be playing other parts of it. I don't know. It's just, it's annoying when you're playing a game like this, and a boss or an enemy can kill you in 2 or 3 hits, and it takes 50 hits to kill them, and I just don't want to do it anymore. I really like the game. I still, again, with Cuphead, one of my favorite games of the year. I love it. This piece of DLC is really good. From what I understand, there's like 9 side missions. I obviously haven't unlocked them all because I haven't beaten the full thing, but I did everything else. I did the first 2 missions, half of the third one, if not more, and then like 4 or 5 of the side missions you get, and there's supposed to be 9. There's no new weapon, but it's more Nioh, and that's great. It's just this content, and by and large, I guess all the DLC, although I beat the other 2, it's really for that person who's gone back in and done the new game plus whatever hard mode and has gone a little further. I feel like if I had just played the game through again as a new game plus character, I'd have better loot. I'd have this equipment that wouldn't make me squishy as hell and ruin these things for me. Like, it doesn't ruin the game, but it's annoying. It's obnoxious when you have to start dealing with how many health potions you have, and I don't want to use too many during this boss fight, but I also want to win this boss fight. And it's like, I mean, that's the natural risk reward of Nioh, and it's still there. There's not that many new enemies this time. I think there's really 1 that I can think of. There's 1 or 2. And there's some really cool parts that happen in this. There's a bunch of times where you have companions and they're running around with you, and that's awesome. And how I know I'm horribly underleveled is these companion NPC guys are just fucking wrecking shop. They're over there slicing demons in half. Oh, I'll kill that guy in 6 hits, and I'm over there like boop, 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 boop. A little weirdo with a stick. It's as fun as it is to do that. I don't know if it's fun anymore. It starts getting so flashy and so fast that it loses, I think, what was so cool about the main game, I guess you could say. Like the first couple bosses where you're fighting a giant creature, or even Hino Enma, which was just a woman, normal human-sized. Well, she was kind of a vampire, not much of, well, woman vampire, it doesn't matter. Those, you could see their attacks. You could understand what you were doing, and you knew, okay, she does this, I dodge, then I can move in, all right. But these new enemies, this guy has like 5 arms, probably just 4. That's a normal amount of arms. 4 arms, they all have swords. You can think he has wings, his horns. He's spinning around. I don't really understand, and I don't really care enough anymore at this point in my life, or this point in playing too much of Nioh, to really go further. I love how in both of these gameplay videos I have me fucking around in the menus like a moron. At least I have a green screen. I just don't care to learn their moves anymore. It's different when, okay, this guy's gonna attack and then I dodge and I can get some good hits in, and then I dodge again and I watch him, and then he'll die in 15 hits. It's a completely different notion when this guy's gonna die in 50 hits maybe. I have to have health regen on at all times, otherwise it's just not even worth it. They're doing status effects to me constantly. I know it's whining. I know it's just dumb complaints. You rarely change controls. Well, in Cuphead it's mandatory. That was just a menu thing I was doing in Nioh. But I don't want to do it anymore in Nioh. If I went back to Nioh now, I just would quit the level I'm in because I'm stuck on this mini boss. That's what I did this morning. I'm like, I'm gonna try and finish this DLC, and I got this stupid mini boss. I'm like, I just don't want to fight him anymore. There were 2 mini bosses, then there was another mini boss. I just can't anymore. When you play it too much. If I were to go back to Nioh, I would do New Game Plus. I would level up and get all that gear, and you can do all these other things on the equipment. There's a new thing that's like an infinite challenge room. I forgot to do it actually. But it's great, it's great. Nioh is great. Nioh is so damn great. This DLC is pushing. It's not even like I'm mad about it. Oh, I couldn't beat it. I'm just like, I don't care. I don't care enough. If I'm going to bang my head against the wall to beat this DLC because of some annoying boss that I don't like fighting, that literally takes 1,000 fucking hits to do, Nioh is great. You misspoke. I don't want to do it. I don't want to leave Nioh with a sour note after I took 2 hours to fight the one boss. I don't want to do it again on these mini bosses and then see what the final boss is and then see what's after that. I don't want to. I want to leave Nioh as a positive, great, awesome game I played. Yeah, I caught that. And that's it. I don't want any of this other nonsense. Maybe one day I'll go back to it, but I don't think I need to. Between the alpha and the beta and the last chance trial and the final game, I've played 100 hours of Nioh in less than a year, and it wasn't even out for 6 months of that. So it's enough. It's enough to wholeheartedly say, yes, play this game. It's also another one that's hard. It's also another one, even more so for this one, it's not as hard as people make it out to be. You really just got to be patient and learn and see what the enemies are doing. But that's for the main game. Once you get to this DLC, all bets are off. People are whacking you in the face. They might as well be chopping off your head, as aggressive and mean they are. But it's good. It's good though. But it's good. I don't know. That's really all I have to say about it. It's a solid piece of content. It's not easy. It's a little overboard. There isn't a new weapon in it. The last 2 pieces of the DLC added the Odachi, which is a giant sword, and the Tonfa, the previous one, which I really like the Tonfa. That's what I'm using on my little character guy. But I'm good. There's no new weapon. There's a bunch of new levels. It's cool. The game just, as we get to thinking about it more critically, it has too many systems that I feel overlap all over the place, where if it was just distilled down into a purer system, that's what I think Bloodborne does so well, is like, okay, here's 10 different weapons. And you know what? Armor isn't really, it's just kind of what you want. You want fire defense, this one's a little better at fire defense, that's about it, right? It doesn't go crazy. They removed some of the stats. They simplified the level up structure and made it this simpler experience that was for the better. Whereas in Nioh, every weapon has a skill tree, and there's magic skill tree, and there's ninjutsu skill trees, and there's like a lot of fucking skill trees, and then there's titles you get, and the titles let you pick these other things that level up, and then when you level up, there's 20 different stats, and there's 15 different stats on the side of the stats. There's stats on the stats. And then you look at the weapons, and the weapons are, oh, this is a level 50 weapon, but it's got a +5, and you found this over here, and this is a green level, this is a blue weapon. What, like, there's a red one too, I think. I never found a red one. I'm not fucking good at this game. And then each weapon has, and each piece of armor too, has like 16 different skills you can have. And you could re-roll those skills at the blacksmith because we needed more fucking systems here. It's a little overboard. It's a little too much. I think hone it down, refine it, make it to where each piece of equipment has 3, maybe 2 of those attributes, not 7. And then there's set bonuses. There's set bonuses. You see what I'm saying? It's a little too much. Just play. It's great. It's great. But it's too much. It's too much. See, it's too much. I died over there too. Perfect timing. And I think that's all I have to say today. It was a pretty good look at single player microtransactions and my dying slowly at the end, and how they're bad, and review of Cuphead, review of this DLC. As I futz around in the menu, what are you doing? Stop it. Stop with the menus. Nope, nope, nope. I'm trying to, so I turned off, you can turn off all the numbers, but I like the numbers, and I forgot to turn them back on. So I'm a moron. That's basically it. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. Will and Joel, best internet friends. Will, I expect a drawing of Spoonhead post haste. You can do it in paint. Merry Christmas. Be back next Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific time. Twitch.tv/TheGameFanatics on my own channel. Tomorrow night, I'm streaming Metro Prime 2, which is 100% better than Metro Prime 1. Yes, sir. We're going to finish that eventually. And then do Metro Prime 3. And then on Monday, yeah, that's right, Will, you better get drawn. And then on Monday, I think it's going to be Mario Maker Monday. And then on Wednesday, I don't know what Wednesday is. Oh, A Hat in Time. The Wednesday will be A Hat in Time. Friday will be the show again, and then that Saturday is The Evil Within 2. So get ready. Evil Within. Thanks for hanging out. Get drawn that picture, Will. I expect it about 2 or 3 minutes.